Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel, and today is the third and final 2020 champion ranking video. So in first two videos we basically took a look at the worst champions of the year and the champions that kind of fell into average to good category. But in this video, we're going to be looking at creme de la creme, the best 2020 has had to offer to us, and my reasonings for ranking them where I did. So, if you guys haven't seen already, I definitely will leave a card somewhere up there so you guys can catch up on the champion rankings thus far. There have been some relatively controversial picks. Once again, I did not know that the Red Goblin army is as potent as is. That's why Red Goblin's actually cut off the screen. I don't like Red Goblin now. Anyways, just kidding. So, few more things. I am ranking 22 champions. I am not putting Spider-Ham in the rankings thus far because he basically just has landed in the contest. I have no reasonable way to judge how he fits in meta, how often he's going to be used, or any of that serious stuff, really. In addition to that, I'm also not ranking Platinum Pool and Wolverine Weapon X because those are two special edition champions that don't quite fit in the regular champion release schedule, and Platinum Pool is more of as a trophy and a gag champ, and Wolverine Weapon X, well, vast majority of the player base will never ever get to actually use him. Right, that being said, we have 6 spots left. Right, with 6 spots, we have the best of the best champions remaining. And in spot number 6, champions released this year, I'm actually going to put in Guardian. Now, originally I had a Guardian slightly higher than he is right now, and he could potentially still climb up the ladder, but I think this is a very solid place for him because Guardian definitely has quite a lot to offer, and I personally like him a lot. He's likely set to be one of my next rank ups on my own account as well. He has some very cool synergies that he provides by himself, increasing block proficiency to every single champion that you bring alongside him. So that is definitely extremely useful. And then he has some also on guard for the very useful synergy where first 3 blocks have a 100% perfect block chance, and with addition of that 100% perfect block chance there, you also basically guarantee a really long parry stun and can gain in longer combos. Other than that, Guardian's also himself fairly unique champion that's extremely versatile. He has a huge burst damage potential, but damage isn't really what makes him good. What makes him good is his awakened ability and Sig 200. He kind of has to be Sig 200, and once you have him sigged up, he's going to have an insane block proficiency, insane energy resistance, insane bleed resistance, insane critical damage resistance, and that all put together means that you can bring him in pretty much in any fight where energy damage is the thing. So you can deal him up against magics, you can put him on bleed lanes, he can actually benefit from that, especially if you have Coagulate Mastery. You're just going to be basically healing from those bleeds, and overall he's extremely versatile champion. And the fact that he doesn't land crits but compensate for that with shock damage is also extremely beneficial to several problem aspects in the game where we have terminal velocity, spiked armor nodes, where we have to deal with damage caps like Rage or Safeguard, so on and so forth. So overall, I just really like his kit, starting from the armor up buff, starting from the finishing with a small occasional power drain. And yeah, I think Guardian is a fantastic addition to the contest, and I place him in 6th place overall, released in 2020. And now, sporting 5th spot, champion that almost shares pretty much the same name, just with a color added to that. So that's a Red Guardian himself. And Red Guardian is one of the most unique champions that has been released in a really long time. The unique aspect of Red Guardian is a very simple line. The fact that he cannot gain any buffs. And with that comes a whole load of different consequences in the contest. Means he can ignore stuff like EMP modification or any other node that basically counts or relies on you having buffs and punishing you for it. It means that he's a champion that would never have to worry about Mystic Dispersion, Buffet nodes, so on and so forth. The implications are pretty much endless, and I have a feeling that Red Guardian is going to be one of those champions that becomes more and more significant the further we go into the contest, the more crazy, outlandish, outrageous nodes we encounter that do kind of like exploit or punish us for having buffs. And Red Guardian is definitely by no means a perfect champion. He has several things I would like to have changed about him. For instance, his fractured duration when he shatters his shield is very short, and you have to be extremely precise, and everything has to go perfect to kind of like really get some massive damage going on. But other than that, I don't have too much critique on him. He has very easily accessible and maintainable level 1, which you can just keep spamming your level 1s to have slow active the entire fight, and that actually increases your power gain rate. And you can refresh everything with heavy attacks. There are some crazy combo wombos you can do if opponent naturally gets a lot of debuffs, or you have ability to place extra debuffs either by Resonate Mastery or Mr. Fantastic synergies or whoever. All in all, I definitely have to say that Red Guardian is one of my personal favorite additions this year. I value his utility extremely highly. It has become handy already for several Alliance War offensive uses. For instance, Mojo and Dormammu are non-issue to him because you can never have a buff on you. Therefore, you can never have a buff expire, and you never have to worry about the degenerations. And there are a ton of inherent benefits. So yes, I'm putting Red Guardian as number 5. He could potentially, again, go even higher. Alright, spot number 4. Number 4 is a very, very complicated pick, because I certainly have my fair share of griefs about this champion. But I do have to remind everybody that I'm not valuing just offensive prowess. I'm valuing overall impact on the game, and that includes synergies, that includes defensive capabilities, and basically everything kind of mashed together. And if I was just to look at Professor X as a standalone champion, he certainly would be quite significantly lower. He would be somewhere towards the middle part, maybe upper middle part, somewhere in spot number 8, 9, 10, something like that, because he has a potential for insanely huge damage, and he has ability to deliver the damage in very, very effective bursts, especially combined with like mutant power boost. You can check out my Labyrinth of Legends stream. He can basically nuke down Labyrinth of Legends champions from like 70% health to 0 in a bunch of consecutive special attack launches. So all things considered, there are definitely some things that he has going on for him, like the Vigilance being active for most of the fight, where you can bypass evades and miss mechanic, and that is very easily accessible. He's one of the better miss counters in game as well. But the real reason why he is as high is obviously his impact on mutant class and the synergies that he provides, and they are absolutely crazy. You have these different drugs that can provide you poison resistance. You can gain basically power over time. You can have a cheat death mechanic. You can have invisible mental barrier that reduces the damage. All of your champions gain special attack damage, quite massive amount as well. So there's a ton of things that he can do. My biggest issue with Professor X, though, is this drug I, and the one that you have with Colossus, X-23, and Wolverine. And the reason why I have such a huge problem with this synergy is because it just is absolutely counterintuitive. Because the potential of 72% poison damage reduction on all of the mutant classes is insane. If you don't believe me, check out some Apocalypse Labyrinth of Legends streams, or whatever, or Colossus Labyrinth of Legends streams. Actually, 4-star Colossus Labyrinth of Legends stream as well, because largely thanks to Professor X and Apocalypse, I was able to finish Labyrinth of Legends easy path in like 7 revives with all that extra damage, and being able to heal from Suicide Masteries. And that is what effectively Professor X has done. You can take any mutant champion and make them suicide friendly and have them heal with Suicide Masteries throughout the quest, and that is insanely useful. Now, the problem with that, however, is that in order to gain full benefit from Professor X's synergies, you actually have to use Professor X in fights themselves. And Professor X just so happened to be arguably the most suicide unfriendly champion that has been released in 2020. So there's a huge contradiction in what you can do and what you should do, and your ability to do so based on Professor X's own innate weaknesses, because his definite weakness is he sucks with suicides. You can run him with suicides to mediocre degree of success, but your ramp up is going to be significantly slower, your playstyle is going to be gimped, and it's not an easy or enjoyable time compared to how you would normally play Professor X. And in a game where currently we do not have mastery presets, and it takes forever and costs a fortune to switch in between your mastery setups, this is just extremely frustrating and highlights how outdated and horrible is the entire mastery system in Marvel Console Champions right now. Because Professor X would be infinitely better if we had mastery presets and mastery changes would be free. So what would you do? You'd enter quest, you would get a couple of Cerebro charges, ideally win 3 fights, even 2 would suffice, and then you'd change the preset to Suicide Masteries and enjoy the benefits. Right now you can't really do that anywhere outside of like Everest content when it makes sense, like Labyrinth of Legends or perhaps Abyss, I don't know. And that really sucks for Professor X. I really don't like what Kabam has not been doing with masteries, because mastery entire thing is so outdated that it's just mind-boggling how we are playing a game with such an outdated system for masteries and how much it still costs to change them. But if we had that ability, Professor X would be significantly better champion, and I wanted to point that out. Right, overall, definitely very solid 4th place for Professor X. Now I'm gonna move on a bit quicker. 3rd place is actually a bit easier characterization. 3rd place I'm gonna put on Sorcerer Supreme, and Sorcerer Supreme, quite honestly, is probably my favorite Mystic champion right now. Obviously, I'm not gonna put an argument she's better than Dr. Doom, because she's not. Dr. Doom's just insane. He dominates the game and the Mystic class in general right now. He's one of the best champions in the game and by far the best Mystic. And then we have Black Widow Clairvoyant, who is a typical Mystic because she's suicide friendly, she doesn't rely on Mystic Dispersion, she has access to a bunch of immunities and different types of damage over time effects and a ton of healing and so on and so forth. And then there's Sorcerer Supreme, who is very classic Mystic in a sense that you have powerful nullification abilities and you rely on Mystic Dispersion and you benefit highly if opponents have buffs. Not like Black Widow Clairvoyant. And therefore Black Widow Clairvoyant, in my opinion, is slightly better champion because she's kind of perfect counterpart to Dr. Doom. If you have both of those champions, your Mystic needs are largely covered. However, Sorcerer Supreme is a champion I absolutely love using. That regeneration on block is absolutely huge and unique. I don't think any other champion in the game has like similar ability. And even though she's not a tanky champion at all by any means, and I think she has like negative physical resistance as well, overall, she's just an insane. She can put up some insane damage. Her utility can be quite crazy. I believe she is one of the only 2 Mystic champions that has access to slow debuff. Second one being Dragon Man, but her slow debuff is much more reliable and much easier to maintain throughout the entire fight and asks you to make less compromises. Therefore, she's a very good slow champion. Only downside to her slow obviously would be the fact that you can't slow champions with class disadvantage, so you can't slow science champions, which is one of the classes you most often want to slow down. But at the same time, the fact that she can slow down champions that let's say science champions couldn't, is a very complementary ability. Armor breaks for more damage and the regen, all in all, together push her as a very solid champion. And I think out of all of the 2020 champions, she's arguably, together with Red Guardian, closest to a champion that you really want to have to actually rely and possibly unlock fights and pieces of content that you would not be able to do otherwise, because they are very unique, and it really does pay off. And we can see it in Variant 5, we have seen it in Act 6, we see in Alliance War already. She's starting to get used. She's definitely a very powerful champion, and I absolutely love her. And another thing that I have been saying about 2020 champions is that for most part, none of them are definite must-haves. Most of them are effectively working as luxury champions, because overall power level of 2020 champions has gone down, but then again, the bottom level of those champions has gone up. So 2020 champions have been consistently good to great, but not an absolute must-have. And I think that she and Red Guardian is arguably the two of the champions that could make most of an argument where you really want to rely on these champions. So yeah, absolutely love Sorcerer Supreme. I wish to pull her as rank 3 6-star because I would love to have... I wish to pull her as 6-star because I would love for her to be my next rank up in Mystic class. Yeah, really do enjoy this champion. Next up, though, final two. And in the second place, I'm going to put in a champion that's going to be the most popular this year. And Cosmic Ghost Rider is definitely going to be most used champion. Like, if we're going to look a year from now, I suspect that Cosmic Ghost Rider is going to be staple in people's questing teams. I expect that Cosmic Ghost Rider is just going to be very commonly, frequently used champion, and for a good reason, because he has one of, if not the best damage output that has a very easy and quick access from the beginning of the fight. Basically, within two combos and a couple of hits, you get to a level 2 that deals already a massive amount of damage, and then 2 more combos and your damage is even higher than it was before. Or if you want to take level 3 route, you can do that. I personally prefer level 2 rotation. But the fact that he dishes out so much damage so quickly, and his damage isn't just the short burst, you can adjust his rotations, you can use him in longer fights with very great success as well, is crazy good. And it's going to make him one of those day-to-day champions. Even right now, I often use him for like casual questing, for casual fight clearing, so on and so forth. The problem in his valuation kind of comes when you look at what extra he does, what extra he has besides the damage. Because he is reliant on having debuffs on opponent, he's reliant on everything kind of happening pretty much perfectly. He's reliant on having a ton of access to buffs, so no nodes that hinder with your ability to gain buffs or place debuffs. And there are a lot of limitations overall when you look at this champion. So there are going to be plenty of matchups where you will not be able to use him, more so than any average kind of like highly ranked champion. So he's going to be one of the best options for any fight where you can use him, but he's going to very rarely unlock your ability to clear new quests, to clear new content. He's not a champion that you wait for, okay, now I can go and do 6.3, or okay, now I can do that piece of content. No, because chances are that anything he can do, you already have champions who can do it as well. The thing with Cosmic Ghost Rider is that he does it better, like armor breaks, stacking armor breaks very easy, very quick, dealing a ton of damage very easy, very quick. His arguably coolest piece of utility that I never really hear discussed or talked about is his access to Fate Seal, and the fact that he gains that Fate Seal very frequently throughout the fight. The faster you are able to rotate through 5 judgments, the faster you get that Fate Seal on, and the fact that it nullifies all the buffs and also prevents opponent from gaining power, that's a very unique and cool bit of utility. It almost gives him slight Mystic champion feel, and I absolutely love how they have combined kind of like the Mystic elements from the Fate Seal into this whole buff and debuff and armor breaks accent from a Cosmic class champion. So yeah, I absolutely love him. I expect him to be the most popular champion. I like to use him. I think he's a fantastic addition. Overall, unfortunately, he just isn't quite as necessary. Again, I keep using in 2020 this item as a luxury item. He is a quite clear definition of a luxury item. Somebody that can get through a fight very quickly. He's not quite somebody that will do fights that your other champions wouldn't do. But yeah, still absolutely love Cosmic Ghost Rider. And now we have the final champion, that was Carter's picture there, whoopsie. we're gonna have the final champion, and final champion is Apocalypse. So that's right. I do believe Apocalypse to be the best champion in 2020, and largely because of his overall impact on the game. Again, he's not a champion that you're gonna miss if you don't have, in a sense that getting Apocalypse is not really likely gonna unlock any content gates, really. Apocalypse is a champion whose quality significantly varies depending on how you build your team, how many mutants are in it, which synergies you have for Apocalypse, and so forth. And there are several aspects that we need to talk about the champion. First one is obviously his synergies and impact on the entire mutant class. He has been arguably the biggest impact on the mutant class overall. Even though Professor X gave a major boost to mutants, I think he gives even bigger one. Because making a champion a horseman significantly improves those champions, giving them extra damage, extra ability accuracy, so all of their abilities seemingly work better. And that's just the generic horseman ability. Obviously, you have a ton of synergies with many different champions. With your Cables, with your Storm Pyramid X, Archangels, Gambits, Wolverines, and whoever else you can make as a horseman. All of those are crazy good, and many champions go from being bad to being good / great, and many champions go from being already great to even more bonkers and broken. Here's the problem with the whole idea of these horsemen. If you have already a great champion that you're bringing in the quest, chances are he's capable of countering those set nodes. And if you have a bad champion, well, most of the time you're just not going to bring those bad champions in. There are a couple of exceptions and a couple of standalone cases, but again, he's a champion that kind of capitalizes when you're already doing well. If you understand what I mean. He doesn't quite unlock new horizons for you. He doesn't unlock new variants or piece of content for you at the moment. He makes whatever you already can do easier and or better. That is kind of like my gripe with 2020 champions in general. But Apocalypse is definitely also a very, very solid standalone champion, depending on how you have built your team. For instance, his damage output significantly varies, obviously, on the amount of pre-fight charges that he has, but let's say you bring in Cable and you dedicate synergy slots, so you don't have to worry about that first fight, you're kind of fully ramped up. But it also significantly differs based on how many mutant champions you have on your team, for instance, so it might limit your team building to a single class in many occasions. So I'm definitely not a fan of that, and that, in my opinion, is going to be kind of like Achilles' heel of Apocalypse. Because you're going to go in an Act 7 quest, and you're going to have to counter X, Y, and Z, and then you'll say, for instance, you're going to want to have maybe Nick Fury, maybe Ghost, maybe Quake, maybe Aegon, and then you just can't dedicate enough attention to Apocalypse, where you have enough fights where to ramp him up, where you have enough fights to unlock the Horseman abilities. So there are certain downfalls, but his kit is definitely respectable. There's quite a bit of utility hidden in there. I like how he's the only champion in the game that currently can go Disorient immune. And then obviously he can go Incinerate and Bleed immune, and then he has access to Weakness and Concussion up to 70%, which is huge. Poison and Degeneration, all of those things are absolutely amazing. I love using the guy, but again, he's not really somebody that you absolutely must have, in my opinion. And the last thing, I think that kind of like puts exclamation mark on top of anything, is the fact that he single-handedly makes a couple of champions from average to really good. And namely, let's say Cable. Cable is such a crazy champion with Apocalypse synergy. And any champion who can do that and all of the other things, I think, in my opinion, is quite well worth of the first spot. Because yeah, Cable is arguably on top of mutant class if he's made a horseman with all of the extra abilities. There are some very crazy Cable cheeses available with like Caltrops nodes and some other things. So Cable is actually a very decent pull these days, which is quite shocking. And same for Gambit. Gambit can turn into an absolute perfect blocking machine. And yeah, overall, I do think that Apocalypse is the best champion of 2020. Overall, I do think that he has had the most significant impact on the game. Don't expect him to be as frequently used as like Cosmic Ghost Rider or some of the other champions, But when you add in all of the bits where we're going to be facing against Apocalypse on AQ defense, we consistently say Apocalypse on Alliance War defense. He just unlocks new different cool abilities. So yeah, I do like Apocalypse a lot. But I think that kind of like very well summarizes where I'm at with 2020 as well. Even though I think Apocalypse is the best champion in the game, still wouldn't put any of the 2020 champions next to Doctor Doom or Warlock or Nick Fury or Captain America Infinity War or Quake or Ghost. So we haven't had absolutely broken game-breaking champions, but we definitely have had fantastic, really fun, still amazing additions to the game, and I prefer it this way. I like it better than there are no absolute must-have or you're not going to be able to do content, or the fact that this is the champion that you must hunt for. Yeah, so I definitely have, I think, overall enjoyed the year of 2020 in regards to the champions, and that will do for today's video. I've stretched it out a bit too long, my apologies. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'm going to catch you guys next time. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the